All right, so let's go ahead and do another example. Again, we are given a quadratic expression written in standard form, and they are wanting us to convert it into completing the square form. Once again, please remember, I do realize that there's these a values up here. We are not going to see those in either the standard or the completing the square form because our leading coefficient is 1. Okay, and again, like I've already said, for this week and next week, you will only be working with quadratic equations with a leading coefficient of 1. After next week, I will start teaching you how can I rewrite it when the leading coefficient is not 1. All right, so as we've started in the past, we're going to look at that middle term, our b value, and we're going to cut that in half. So right now it's negative 1,000. Half of negative 1,000 would be negative 500. So I'm going to start putting together my parentheses. We're going to do x minus 500 parentheses squared. So we're working on this part of the completing the square form right now. And again, we're not going to have this a value because the a value is actually 1, and we don't have to put that 1 there. Okay, so now comes the hard part, which is trying to figure out, well, what is the k value? And as we've done in the past, what we need to do is we need to expand this x minus 500 squared. So I'm going to go off to the side and do some work. X minus 500 times x minus 500. And all I'm going to do at this point is a whole lot of distributive property, which we're all pretty good at this point, I would say so. All right, so x times x gets me x squared. X times negative 500 gets me negative 500x. Negative 500 times x gets me another negative 500x. And then we have to do negative 500 times negative 500, which gets us positive, let me move this over a little bit, positive 250,000. All right, and then we can go ahead and combine like terms. We can combine this negative 500 and negative 500. And so we're going to have x squared minus 1,000x plus 250,000. Now remember, we want this to be equivalent to the original expression we were given back over here. We have that x squared. We've got x squared, x squared. We've got negative 100, negative 1,000x, negative 1,000x. The problem is this third term, our c value. They have 60,000, we have 250,000. So we need to figure out, well, what do I need to add or subtract from 250,000 to bring it down to 60,000? And if in your mind you're like, I don't know, you can always go off to the side and create an equation. 250,000 plus what is going to get me down to 60,000, which is what I want. And at that point, you could just draw your wall, subtract 250,000 from both sides. So I just have to figure out what 250,000 minus 60,000 is. And again, if you don't know, we could always do some subtraction. So we can do 250,000 minus 60,000 and subtract. 0 take away 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 5 take away 6 I can't do. 15 take away 6 is 9. So we have 190,000. So that means, and it's going to be a negative 190,000 because when we combine the 60,000 and negative 250,000, we subtract it, but we keep the sign of the higher number. So we need to put here a negative 190,000. And then these will combine to make that 60,000 that we need. So the number we're going to plug in for this missing value is that negative 190,000 minus 190,000. All right, so our final answer then to write this quadratic expression into completing the square form is going to be x minus 500 squared minus 190,000. That is the same exact thing except in completing the square form. And as always, if you're like, man, I think that's right, but I'm not totally 100% sure, you could always go off to the side and do all the work, right? You could do x minus 500 times x minus 500 and then combine all the like terms, including this negative 190,000, and make sure you're getting back up to this. which is essentially what I did all over on this side. As always, if this is still very confusing, do not hesitate to reach out and ask me more specific questions. I am more than happy to help.